Alright guys, real quick video here. We've got the 2002 Bug-Eye back in. This car has a persistent P1130 code, which is for the front oxygen sensor. If we go over here to the factory service manual, we've got the P1130 front oxygen sensor air fuel sensor circuit malfunction, open circuit. If you clear it, it comes right back. As it says here, immediately trips at fault recognition. And we've got the wiring diagram from battery power to the main relay to the front oxygen sensor to the ECM and then back down through to ground. Shows our connectors off to the side. To the diagnostic flowchart for this particular code. Check harness between the ECM and the front oxygen sensor connector. Turn off the ignition switch. Disconnect the connectors from the PCM, ECM, and the front oxygen sensor. Measure resistance of the harness between the ECM and front oxygen sensor. Tells you what pins we need to look at. On the computer, we're looking at pin number 29 and 19 on connector B1130. We're looking at connector B18 for the oxygen sensor. We're looking at pin 3 and pin 4. Check the resistance. Is the resistance less than 1 ohm? If it is yes, you go to step 2. If not, you need to repair the harness. Shows what the problem could be here. So going to the car, we've got one end of the multimeter here on one of the 2 pins. And I have the other end of the multimeter down here in the footwell on the other pin. Look at our multimeter. Our resistance is 0.3 ohms. We're less than 1 ohm, so that is a good reading. What we're going to do now is move our pin from 29 to 19 on this connector. We'll go up here and move our pin from the 1 sense wire to the next. Careful not to spread those pins out. I'm just using a little small alligator clip with a pin on the back to back probe, front probe that connector. And our resistance is jumping between 0.3 and 0.4 ohms. That's less than 1 ohm, so we have good continuity from the harness all the way through to the ECM. So we don't have an issue with our wires being cut or shorted or anything of that nature. One other quick check you can do is check the wires for continuity to ground. So we'll go to step 2. Step 2 is check for poor contact in the front oxygen sensor connector. Was poor contact found? Yes. Repair? No. Replace the oxygen sensor. So we'll get this out of the way real quick. Looking at the front sensor, I don't see any issues. I don't see any bent pins, nothing spread open. Might take a little pick and try to flare those pins open a little down here to make it a little bit tighter fit with the connector for the oxygen sensor, which is, where did that go? Down here for our pins here. Now we can see some scratch marks on the pins, so they're definitely making contact and dragging as they go in and out. And this does have a new sensor, a newer sensor installed on it. Whether it's the correct sensor or not, I don't know. It might be some aftermarket sensor. They're kind of particular about the front oxygen sensors on the WRX and STI. I believe they're like almost $300 from the dealer. I think they're like $250 or so. I might be wrong on that, but they might have put a cheap parts house one in here, and that might be what the issue is here. But every time you try to clear this code, it comes right back on, so it's a hard fault. It either doesn't like the oxygen sensor, or there's an issue with the actual PCM. Not sure yet. If you look at the live data, I had the Subaru Select monitor hooked up earlier. everything. The current is pegged to negative 16 milliamps, I think it was, and the resistance was pegged at 255 ohms or milliohms. I can't remember exactly what it was. I might hook the scanner back up to give you a screenshot of that, but the sensor acts like it's shorted, so possibly a bad sensor. Odd that they replaced the sensor and it's still giving the issue, but like I said, it could be an aftermarket sensor, and if you don't put the exact sensor in for auction sensors, a lot of cars are really particular about the sensor you put in, that they're not always calibrated exactly the way the range is on a factory sensor. So just a little quick tip showing a code, going through the factory diagnostic flow chart and trying to come to a conclusion, although we haven't come to a conclusion on this one yet. Alright, so I've gone on to opposedforces.com. If you don't know what that is, it's basically an online Subaru parts catalog. Looked up the part number I need for the WRX, went to subaruparts.com, put it in, got that pulled up. Price is $199.54. List price is $251, so I was close on the price going from my head. And then I always take this part number and put it into Amazon, see what I can find. And here we have the same sensor for $179 Amazon Prime, 2-day shipping. And yeah, the picture shown here and the picture here shows that the sensor is solid with little holes in it. The air-fuel ratio oxygen sensor that's on this car, I believe, is one that has the slits all the way around it. So I believe we might have the incorrect oxygen sensor in the car, and that's what's throwing this circuit code. But I'm gonna do some more digging, check that connector a little more, and see if I can't figure out exactly what the cause is before I recommend a $200 sensor replacement. Alright, so after some more looking online, if I bought the sensor straight from Denso, I can get it for $144. And the $300 price tag I was talking about earlier is right here from Advance for the same sensor. Everything I've looked at shows part number of this sensor being 234-9011 from Denso. The Subaru part number is different, but the Subaru, it is a Denso. Now looking at the actual sensor itself, it's got a number of 3410. I cannot find, searching Denso 3410, anything to do with an oxygen sensor, but looking at the sensor, looking at the crush washer, this isn't a new sensor. They might have told him that they replaced the sensor on it, but he's only had the car for maybe a month now, and this is definitely not a new sensor, and it's been over torqued, and the ends have been rounded off of this sucker. So since there's no issue with the wiring harness between the sensor and the PCM, and I doubt the issue is the PCM, I'm going to recommend replacing the front air-fuel ratio oxygen sensor, and that should take care of our P1130. So I don't know if I'll have a resolution to this code in this video, or if I'll need to come back and maybe pin a comment to the top of the video. But as of right now, that's what I'm going to recommend, that we go ahead and replace this sensor with a new factory sensor, Denso sensor, and we rule out the sensor. If there's still an issue, it's got to be the PCM, which I really doubt that the PCM is failed for this circuit, because all it's doing is measuring the data coming back from the sensor, and when you look at lab data on the scan tool, it's showing some sensor data, so I really doubt it's the PCM, so most likely it's going to be this sensor. Alright guys, so fast forward 2 days, I've got the old sensor back out of the car, got the brand new Denso sensor here. Can't remember, let's see what the markings were. It says Denso 3410, then it's got 01B18, it looks like. Or this one had 3410 05K12, so I don't know what the markings mean, but as you can see, a little bit of buildup on the old sensor and a lot of rust, so let's go ahead and swap this thing out and see if that solves our P1130. I'm pretty sure it's going to, but don't want to jinx myself. All right, moment of truth, new sensors in. Let's see if we have sense coming from that oxygen sensor. I've got the access port set up to read the front O2, and it was stuck before, so let's see what it does now. Look at there, air-fuel ratio sensor 1 is now moving. We have fixed our issue. Looks like that old AF sensor was bad, because before it was pegging out and just staying stuck. It would not switch back and forth. So nice. Gonna go drive the car a little bit, get the sensor up to temp, see if the check engine light goes out on its own. If not, I'll clear it and see if we've picked up any drivability or performance out of this car now that we've got a good oxygen sensor for the ECU to use to calibrate our air-fuel ratio. Real quick, I switched the monitor to the AF sensor 1 to current, and as you see, we're switching between negative 3.8 milliamps and half a milliamp. Before, this sensor I think was pegged at 255 milliamps. I'm not sure. I forgot to hook up the Subaru Select monitor and give you guys a screenshot of what was happening beforehand. Sorry about that. Alright guys, been out driving the car. Still got nice data coming from our AF sensor. Pulled over and started and stopped the car 2 times, and on the 3rd restart, check engine light's out. So pretty sure that's a confirmed fix for this P1130. Bad, failed, shorted out AF sensor. Alright guys, back from the full test drive on the car. Check engine light did not come back on. Front AF sensor kept reading as it should. Of course, being that it was a new sensor. And car is running a lot better, seems to have more power, but we're going to be going through an AF learn. Now that the sensor is finally working and the PCM can use the data to adjust the parameters, so it's going to take a couple hundred miles to get it running a lot better as it relearns. But that'll do it for this video on the P1130. For WRX STI, should cover basically all turbocharged Subaru with an EJ engine. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.